text that I used for my literary analysis, number one, was the poem of The Dream of the Rood. The author is unknown, however, it was written around 700 AD by the Anglo-Saxon tribe that had just converted to Christianity. The poem is divided into three parts. The first one being about a man that had a dream about the cross. The second part, it's about the cross itself, telling the story of when Jesus was crucified according to its point of view. And the third part is about the cross, basically acknowledging God and thanking God, and basically evangelizing others and telling them about the story of Christ on the cross. My issue was how the religious and political symbols in society were reflected in the text at the time the text was written. An example of this is whenever the man is describing his dream. And in his dream, he talks about how there were angels surrounding a tree, and that this tree would be the tree that would eventually become the cross that would carry Christ, who would die for everyone's sins. Now, this would be seen as fate. And in the Anglo-Saxon culture, fate is word, W-Y-R-D. And this word is associated with the fact that, everyone dies for a reason, things happen for a reason. Therefore, they saw that that this tree was very important in order to fulfill the promise of Jesus dying on the cross. Another example would be when the cross is talking about Jesus. Now, when the cross is talking about Jesus, the cross describes him as a courageous warrior. Now, those words, courageous, honorable, or a warrior with valor, these things are very important in the Anglo-Saxon culture. They saw they believed that a warrior needed to have these characteristics in order to be a warrior, because even they saw dying in battle as the most honorable way to die. Therefore, them implementing a courageous warrior, or describing Jesus as a courageous warrior, reflects how their culture is, how they closely associated their culture to the Christian religion. Now, at the time the poem was written, many saw this poem as a step closer for the Anglo-Saxons to fully commit to Christianity, or to fully reach the entire Anglo-Saxon community. However, there were also some that saw this poem as though the Anglo-Saxons could not leave behind their paganism religion, especially because they gave so much importance and so much glory to the cross being an important part of the crucifixion of Christ. Now, readers can acknowledge the combination of the Anglo-Saxon culture and Christianity in this poem in order to better portray or better understand Christianity and how it has impacted the Anglo-Saxon community. I personally believe that this poem is a great metaphor for the gospel. The gospel being how God created the world, and he sent Jesus to die on the cross for all of our sins so that we can then be forgiven, and that Jesus would one day come back to earth. And I feel like there are a few lines in this poem that can clearly portray the gospel. Growing up as a Christian, I never really read any other religious literature besides the Bible. So being able to read this poem, it showed me how much passion the Anglo-Saxon had for the greatest act that as Christians we acknowledge, being Jesus dying on the cross for all of our sins. It was the ultimate sacrifice and the ultimate gesture of love. And just seeing this passion put into a poem that describes Jesus so mesmerizing, it really amazed me, and I really enjoyed reading this piece of literature.